welcome to Let's Talk Paralegal.
Hey, Etta, how's it going? Thank you for having me.
Of course, we had you on Everyday Law podcast, so we're having you on here. So thank you for always being on our platform. I appreciate that very much and bringing all your experience and your tips. So today we're going to go over a little bit of that and let's get to it, right?
Sure, let's start.
All right, so we're here to provide the audience a little bit of a platform for paralegals and a view of how the paralegal role should look like. And I know we were talking about this a little bit before the recording, so maybe we can elaborate a little more now that we are, live and talk about kind of like the education of a paralegal. And what do you foresee that education looking like in the near future?
So I guess currently, there isn't, a lot of requirements to become a paralegal. A lot of people become paralegals, based off, just experience or, this many years in the field. Some people have an AA in paralegal studies, but there isn't really any like concrete, like requirements, I guess, educational requirements to become a paralegal. Once you do become a paralegal, there are CLEs, continuing legal education, that you can take as a paralegal afterwards. But I guess for incoming paralegals, there isn't a lot of education. And I think a lot of paralegals just kind of hop into the field and kind of get their feet wet and kind of just, learn experience as they go. But I think, probably in the near coming future, there will probably be more education geared towards incoming paralegals, just like, for attorneys, they have to get a JD and pass the bar. I feel like maybe in the near future, there'll be some, education requirements maybe to become a paralegal, maybe in Florida, especially. And seeing that the law is becoming, more complicated and more laws are coming out, there may be, some education, requirements coming up. But it would be interesting to see like what, is required and what, education does come out for paralegals coming into the field.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think I agree with you on as far as the education part, right? Because I think we both hold degrees, and especially you have a Juris Master's, but there's really nothing else for the paralegal. We either have like on-the-job training, if you're lucky, right? If not, you're just learning it like right then and there. So there's really like no in between. And I feel like it's kind of similar with the attorneys as well. Like as soon as they get out of law school, they become associates, they become partners, whatever the case may be, but there's really no training involved. Like nobody really trains you. It's called practicing for a reason, right? Practicing law. So I feel like you're right that we need to bridge that gap somehow. And, paralegal coaches are awesome. I'm one of them, so I get it. To try and bridge that gap. And I think the education really needs to be in the forefront of everything when it comes to that, because I think that's where we fail, especially in the legal industry, where it's so important because it does overflow in all these other industries. I feel that the education should really be more geared to the paralegal training and what to really expect once you like hit the ground running. And there's really no onboarding training. Like I've been a paralegal for 17 years, going on 18 this year, and I've never actually really been trained.
No,
nobody has ever sat me down and said, this is what is expected of you. This is how you're going to be able to do it, and here are the tools. Like I've never had that. Have you?
No, I haven't. I mean, and of NALA, the certified paralegal courses or the certified legal assistants, but that is after, you have already gained experience in the field. There's no incoming training per se, and I know, a lot of paralegals, some are in the public realm, some are in the private firm realm, and there isn't no overall, I guess, paralegal training because every paralegal does different things.
Right.
I would assume, or I would think, or I would say it would be a good idea maybe for maybe the Florida Bar or, a governing agency over, the state's laws, to create or have some type of, standard training for a paralegal coming in, things like e-filing or, drafting, documents and figuring out the style and the way of cases. I think that would be, really important for a lot of paralegals, instead of kind of just jumping in and having a.
And I think to your point, because you had made this point before, to pro ses, right? People that are trying to represent themselves, maybe similar programs, towards the pro se that are trying to learn how to file and the processes and things like that, because really that's where the paralegal role really was meant to be. So maybe for pro se, like you were saying before, simple cases or people that just simply can't afford legal services but have the need for a legal issue. So maybe something like that. What are your thoughts on that?
I definitely feel like, for the public as well, because a lot of people can't afford attorneys and, as paralegals can't give legal advice to the public. So, people do come into cases all the time, where they don't have the money to get an attorney to represent them, but they don't know the law themselves. And I know in Florida, especially, the courts have pro se forms, and it has instructions on them, on how to fill them out. But, you know, I know our courts are overwhelmed, but I feel like some type of videos or walkthroughs or how-tos for the public to make a better case for themselves, especially if they can't afford an attorney, that would be extremely beneficial, because I know when people who are pro se, they, represent themselves, sometimes they make mistakes, sometimes it drags on in the court, or it can cause delays in the court because these a lot of people don't know what they're doing legally. And I think some type of upfront training, or even a video or something to help people represent themselves would really like help the courts and the law like in general.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we all know that there's a need for education reform and legal reform. So these simple things that are cost efficient, right? Because we're not creating or reinventing the wheel. These are just instructional videos that everybody can just hit on YouTube link or, have them in their websites, because really, I feel like technology is where it's at right now, especially with the pandemic. And
Right.
talking about that, I know you have a few thoughts on the pandemic and how that's changed the paralegal role in the legal industry in general. So you want to share that?
Sure. Just tying it in with, the pro se and maybe some instructional videos or things being made, everything is becoming virtual now, Zoom meetings, the courts are doing Zoom, calls and, in exchange for hearings. So, I think it would be beneficial, and this, would probably be a good time to do it, for the courts to, maybe put out instructional videos, or, maybe even like, how we're doing, a paralegal podcast, like other paralegals putting out, instructional videos for, how the public can, jump on this technology, wave that is happening, because our legal field is 100% becoming electronic. So, it would be something beneficial for both paralegals and the public, to, be aware of up front.
Yeah, before they even hit the ground running, right? Because a lot of us, we have to learn this on the job, right? If we're legal professionals, or if something has happened, right? So car accidents, divorces, purchasing a property, whatever the case may be, you're learning it as you go. There's no like pre-training, and it's that concept to me is so foreign because we go to college to train ourselves for a particular trait or a particular field, and then we go to actually put that into play or put it into practice, but there's no further training. There's no on the job trainings. There's no on the job instructions or directions, that we're treating it kind of like life. and that can, at times can be dangerous. And I think is probably one of the causes, like you mentioned before, of the legal industry being so far behind and so delayed in their processes, in the laws. We're still waiting. Like, how long have cell phones been around? And I think recently, a couple of years ago, is when we finally got like laws, starting getting, phone records and writing on the phone, things like that. Like, these are simple little things that should have been around at the moment that we had cell phones come out. Now we're in this whole social media thing. But I know you want to give a couple of tips and advice to the up and coming paralegals, current paralegals. So go ahead, do your thing.
So I'm a paralegal in Florida, and I know every state, is different, and whatever legal, area of law that you practice in, I know PI paralegals are different from, patent paralegals, and different from government administration paralegals. But some advice to incoming paralegals would be to do your own research, especially if you don't have a formal, you know, education, a bachelor's degree in legal studies or an AA in paralegal studies. You know, you will get training on the job, you know, maybe
Hopefully.
different things for that specific area of law. Say you've became a patent paralegal, you know, finding patent paralegal, you know, topics or things to read about, you know, in that specific state would like help you out on the job, you know, despite whether or not you have formal training.
I think those are awesome tips, and I appreciate you coming on the show and taking your time, because I know you're so busy. So I thank you for your time, and thank you for those amazing tips. And obviously we're going to continue, you know, collaborating and talking and really moving this movement forward, and hopefully we can make a true change. So that's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you have a wonderful, wonderful day. Have a good one.